It was the summer of 1968 when our family undertook the most adventurous and ambitious family vacation we ever had. We were driving from Springfield to Bonneville, Utah, just outside of Salt Lake City. We were making the trip to visit our paternal grandmother. The 1961 Country Squire wagon, equipped with a 351 cubic inch V8 engine, was going to be towing a pop-up camper with every piece of luggage and kitchenware that would fit inside it, as well as 8 passengers in the car. What trust my father displayed in that 7-year-old Ford Country Squire. The route was planned by the American Automobile Association, better known as AAA. With a AAA triptych in hand, we began the sojourn of 2,240 miles. Remember, in the late 1960s, there was no satellite navigation system to guide every turn. The 1961 Country Squire had no air conditioning and a simple AM radio. Good grief. I really do not remember how many days it took to reach Bonneville, but it seemed as if it took forever. Imagine, there were only 2 adults and 6 children in a round trip that would exceed 4,000 miles. After a wonderful visit with family and friends in Bonneville, we set out to return to Springfield by a different route. One of the many sites on the return trip was to manage to visit Mount Rushmore. That 1961 Ford Country Squire, while it did not exactly perform perfectly, performed well enough to bring us back to our Allen Street home. Upon returning home, we realized that we had learned about who we were as a family. We were actually more connected to one another than we were prior to the trip, albeit for a little while. It didn't take long for the 6 of us to return to our normal, darling selves. Similarly, each of us is on a journey. As spiritual beings, we are on a human journey. There is an ache within each of us which seeks that being which is greater than ourselves. In our Judeo-Christian heritage, we have named that being God. The followers of the star in St. Matthew's Gospel, whoever they were seeking a reality greater than themselves. It is for that very reason today is called the Epiphany. The word epiphany literally means a moment of sudden revelation or insight. The star led them to a far and distant place in order that this epiphany might be made manifest in their lives. The words from Isaiah, so wonderfully etched in our minds from Handel's Messiah, were fulfilled. Every barrier that kept the followers of the star distant from God were eternally eliminated. The valleys were filled, the mountains were leveled, and the roads were now a straight path. The followers of the star experienced a metanoia, a change of heart. As they were to return to their respective homes, the very core of who they were as persons was transformed forever. They had a new vision on which to base their lives. The miracle of the incarnation took flesh in each of them. As Isaiah foretold in today's scripture, nations shall walk by your light, then you shall be radiant at what you see. Your heart shall throb and overflow. The Epiphany of the Lord is that moment in history in which the followers of the star represented all the peoples who came and who would come to the light of faith. In our own time, we need not traverse afar for the Epiphany. All we need do is to allow the miracle of the incarnation to greet us as we rise to a new day every day. We must be willing to go the distance in our quest to this brilliant light of faith by loving and caring for one another. We need to welcome the stranger, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and visit the sick and imprisoned. Truth must always be on our lips. Justice must be our passion, and love must be our motivating virtue. For when there is no truth, when there is no justice, when there is no love, the holy family of God suffers. As we reflect upon the many discouraging revelations during the year of 2018 about far too many Catholic clergy in the Church, the dysfunction of the federal government, the continuing acts of domestic violence and sexual abuse as reported through #MeToo, as well as cowardly acts of terrorism in our streets, the mistrust among the races and the religions of the world. We witness the destruction of so many innocent lives within our communities through the opiate abuse crisis that exists all around us. And with 24-hour cable news, we are becoming desensitized to the tragedies unfolding around us. It is easy to become overwhelmed by the number of meaningless deaths. I think it is fair to say that we as a society, especially as believers in society, we have many battles to wage and to win. Believers, however, are people of light. Believers need to share their light so darkness will never again overpower light. The joy of the Incarnation and Epiphany cannot simply be limited to a liturgical date or a one-day celebration. Our God summons each of us to live out our responsive faith in an enlightened manner every day. Believers are meant to be in the world, but not of the world. That is precisely why we need each other in the community of the Church. Together we can accomplish the works of the gospel. As the people of Eucharist and Word, we receive and cultivate strength to persevere rather than to give up and walk away. We must never return to a former way of life. The many religious communities throughout the 4 counties of western Massachusetts need to be welcoming and vibrant places of not only worship, but of mutual support to embrace the ministry of Jesus in space and in time until the end of time. Will you be there? Will there be anyone left? Today's celebration of the Epiphany of the Lord reminds each of us that we are surrounded by the light of Christ and need to reject anything or anyone that would lead us into darkness. We are called to be followers of the star of peace, the star of hope, the star of justice, and most importantly, the star of the incarnate Word made flesh, which is the star of immense love.